I have with me here someone that is very, very um, important in the data ecosystem, especially in Nigeria, but also beyond Nigeria. And his name is David Effiong. Before I bring him up, um, David is a very um, resourceful person. David is very, very resourceful. And he's the co-organizer of DBT Lagos. He's also an analytics engineer for data culture in the United States of America. So before I bring him up, let me just give a brief about this episode. So this episode is where we talk about building a successful data career, and the entire podcast is data and chain, and the chain part is the blockchain, right? So we are going to be having conversations around data, blockchain, and AI, how data intersect with blockchain, and of course the craze of AI currently. And it is my delight to bring up David. All right, David, you're
Yeah.
welcome.
Hello,
Please
Zach. Thank you
confirm you
so
can
much.
hear me
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
crisp and clear.
Awesome. Thank you
Yes,
so
I
much.
can. I can. I can. Yes, you're welcome to our podcast. It's nice to have you. And sorry for the delay we
My
had.
pleasure.
Some very, very unusual, circumstances. Okay, so we'll go right into it. This is where I ask you about your journey into data. How did you get started? And you know, how in maybe in very 3 4 minutes ish, maybe give us a brief about why data. Was it somebody that guided you into the data space? Was it somebody that told you that this is the future, you need to go there? Or you just thought about it that, okay, I think I want to go? Or maybe you've always had interest in tech before, because there are some people that will be listening or that are listening currently, and they need to be convinced that maybe they just have an interest, but they don't know why, right? They just know that everything is here, here, here. So what was your interest back then when data was not as popular as now? Your journey, basically.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Zacchaeus. I really appreciate this opportunity to be here on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you a brief about my data journey and how it's been. So I would say my journey into data was not planned in that sense. First off, I began my professional journey or my professional career at a what you would call a teller, but what I call a data entry officer, right? So we would call it a teller, but I would call it a data entry
Oh,
officer.
okay.
Yeah. In one of Nigeria's biggest
Okay.
banks, Zenith Bank at the time. So at that point, while I was on that role, I realized something was missing. I realized that I did not have, as it were, a marketable skill. So I was burdened with the choice of trying to give myself a marketable skill to grow professionally, basically. And then at some point, I tried software engineering, I tried digital marketing. In fact, there's a particular digital marketing stunt I had for a particular client, and I flopped. That was the end of my digital marketing journey, right? So I think fast forward, even while I was on that role, I went for a career fair around that time at Echo Hotel, and then that was when I heard for the first time about a role called business analytics. And so it got my interest at that point in time because when I read a little bit about the role, I realized that it had some skills that I would find that I would say I had innately. For example, it required a lot of creativity, a lot of curiosity, and critical thinking. And at that point in my life, I considered myself to be someone who was very curious, someone who would like to ask the right questions. And so by that, I would say business analytics and data analytics. I just found that interest in that role. And then fast forward from when I was in Zenith Bank, I started learning. I started getting some courses online, EDX. I think I had my first course on EDX. From EDX to Coursera. While I was on that role, I moved to another role, Fidelity Bank PLC, where I was still doing some form of data entry as well, but a little bit of data. But then I wasn't still yet satisfied. I kept on learning courses here and there. I would say COVID 2020 was sort of a pivotal role for me, or pivotal time rather, because even though I was learning so many things, doing so many
A
courses,
lot of people.
yeah, I felt like I didn't have a direction. I felt like I was just doing everything, learning everything without any focus, right? So at that point, I had a mentor who guided me. I was like, "Hey, David, learn this," and I feel like that gave me the direction I needed. And that I would say that was more like a launching pad for me
Mm,
while I was in Fidelity. And from then I moved on to
mm,
Merco Autotech as the first data hire. Being a first data hire for a startup came with a lot of interesting challenges. Because you had to build data infrastructure
mm.
from scratch,
Yeah.
design a plan, data strategy, and stuff like that. And also that helped me in lots of ways to develop certain muscles I never had prior to that point in time. And then from Meco, I moved on to Sterling Bank as data engineer. Sterling Bank was also an interesting point, and then I moved on to where I am currently, data culture as an analytics engineer, where we are able to marry the skills, the best of skills of both worlds, the skills as data engineer and the skills as an analyst. You combine it together to provide value for the business, right? So I would say that's a summary of my career journey. Outside of work, I am also strong in community. Like you said, I'm one of the co-organizers of DBT meetups in Lagos, Nigeria. That was pioneered by my boss and mentor, Pemi Fabi. I also have a YouTube channel, right? David Data, where I talk about stuff around data, productivity, and faith as well. And
You
yeah,
don't run your CV.
so I'm really excited to be here to share my learnings, to share my experiences, and I hope someone will get a thing or two out of it. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you give us a rundown of your entire resume in 3 minutes.
we have
Wow,
to.
that's quite an experience. That's quite an experience. I mean, that's like a hot seat. You mentioned something that I wanted to highlight before go to the next question I actually wanted to ask. Well, you mentioned something about you had somebody that guide, some sort of guide, right? And that was, sort of pivotal for you in how you were doing what you were doing. If that guide was not there, the reason I'm saying this is because I know there are quite a lot of people. Um, for the personal note, I think learning alone can be very tiring, or trying to figure things out yourself. Eventually you will do, but by the time you figure it out, I mean, a lot of people that have moved ahead, you discover that your mates, they have gone far, right? So for you, that guide, that person that gave you that guide, without that guide, how do you think that experience would have been for you up until now? Or would you have even gotten to this stage right now?
All right, thank you so much. I think that's a very great question. I would say without the guide, two things could have happened. One was that I could have ended up frustrated and fell off, or I would keep on doggedly going on the path, but then to take longer time, right? Something I'm going to say that I would say is valuable, especially in the data space, is that pre at that point in time, we had mentorship, but there was no strong community. And how I usually like to talk about it is that you need both. You need a mentor and you need a community. Why? Because a mentor gives you depth, right? While community gives you breadth. So if I was
Mm,
talking to a mentor would probably have expertise in one or two areas.
mm,
So he would help me get depths in those areas. But then if I join the community that has a wide breadth of
mm,
different people with different skills, different exposures, so I get to leverage all those experiences all in one place. So basically, without
mm,
that guide at that point in time, that mentor at that point in time, I think two things: I would have been frustrated or left,
mm.
or I would have kept on with grit, but then to take longer time. So that's how I want to think about it. Yeah.
Wow. I like, what you just said now. You said a mentor, I'm trying to put it up on the screen. You said a mentor gives you depth and community gives you breadth. I mean, that's
All right.
that's a cliche. I need to add it to my library. A mentor gives you depth, community gives you breadth. Wow. I mean, that is a cliche that even goes beyond it. But anyways, I've highlighted that. Okay, so to the question I wanted to ask, focusing on skill building for now. For someone starting from scratch, would you recommend formal education like a degree or certification, or is self-study just as effective? So the reason why I'm asking this question is because I know that there are different type of people joining here. There are some people watching us now. They are professionals. They know what they are doing. They are not entry level people, they're just looking to scale whatever they are doing. But there are some people watching us now that they are just starting their career, or they were not even in the tech space, but they are looking to pivot into the tech space. And for some reason, they chose data. So, um, do you think formal education is a must have now? Certifications, self study, and the big guy, the portfolio. How do you balance all of that? Yeah.
Hmm. All right, that's a very good question. Thank you so much. So I would say I think it's dependent on the climate of society where you are. So
Mm,
although we live in a global society where jobs and opportunity are almost everywhere, but then we can't take away the fact that I don't have the numbers. I'm a data person, like I should not say any wrong numbers. But then most of the jobs in the US, for example, would be done by people in the US.
mm,
Most of the jobs in Nigeria were done by people in Nigeria, even though we have people who are doing jobs
mhm,
overshore, but definitely that geographical location cannot be taken out of it. Now, I said that to say that depends on where you are. So, if you're in a society like Canada, for example, Canada thrives. From my search and believe about that society, they value certification. So if you're in
mm,
that place, you want to go for more certifications. If you're in somewhere like in the US that is more advanced than Africa in terms of having degrees in data, like undergraduate degrees in data, you want to go through that part. But then if you're in a developing nation like Nigeria, or you're maybe somewhere in India, and you maybe do not have I can't think of the number of schools in Nigeria that offer data, anything data for first
mm,
degree, I doubt. Yeah. So that's not
mm,
available in our climate, but it's available in other developed climes. So if you're in those developed climes, you may want to take that route. And if you're not, if you're in these climes where you don't have that opportunity, then you take the route of self-study, build your skill, and get your portfolio. But fundamentally,
mm,
what wraps it all up is having the skill. So the question is, how do you want to get that skill? For the guy who gets a degree, the degree takes him to the door. So if I don't have a
mm.
degree and somebody else have a degree, we both apply for the job. The person with the degree will most likely get to
I
the
got
door
it.
first
Yes,
before me. Yeah,
yes,
typically.
yes, definitely.
So he has that leverage, and then I would have to leverage on something else outside of the degree, maybe projects, portfolios, and stuff like that. But then to answer the question again, I would say it depends on the environment where you are, and then we just look at what works. If the environment is tilted towards giving people with degrees first, then do that. If the environment does not care, they just want to get your skills, then do that, and then build around portfolios and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'll say it depends really.
That's a very balanced. I like the approach you gave. It's very balanced because for different environment. For example, I saw Google, Udacity. They run all these nano degrees now. That if you're in the UX, for example, it's not a must for you to have a degree. I mean, a lot of people are even running into debt just because they're trying to take students loan, and
Mhm.
you just because you want to work with Amazon, right? And at the end of the day, you just run a 6 months or maybe 1 year diploma course with yeah, it's kind of a diploma, but it's just 1 year course or maybe software engineering, data engineering. And after 1 year, you start earning cool cash. That is for the United States of America, right?
Yeah,
But for our Nigeria environment, HR is not going to care whether you have. The requirement is you must have a degree.
correct,
So,
correct.
and I think that also cuts to the Indian environment to Nigeria in a way is more like a junior brother to India. India is a bit more advanced than Nigeria.
I can
So
see that.
that environment. So yes. So different environment applies. But what I want to ask is for skill, right? Um, what in your opinion, what are the absolute must have skill, right? For maybe anyone studying in data, because we are still talking about skill and degree, right?
Yeah.
So if do okay, let me even ask, do you even think it is worthwhile to go and study data analytics 4 years in undergraduate degree? Does it even make sense? Or maybe a more master's degree? I know a lot of people do masters because of this Japan. Let's not expose ourselves. People use data analytics master's degree to travel, right? But do you think, and I don't even think it is important. Why would you go to the university to go and study data science for 4 years. Uh, I don't know. But what are the must have skills basically for someone in data starting just on a very basically?
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for that question. That's a very good question, really. Speaking about the importance of a 4 year degree in data, like undergraduate 4 year degree, I would say it depends on what the goals of that fellow is, right? For
Yeah.
someone who is interested in doing more research, more like an
Mm,
academician, who wants to understand
mm,
things in depthly and begin to lecture, do research papers and stuff like that, more along those lines. Um, he may want to consider that it's not like it's a must-have, but then
mm,
that's not a bad thing for him. For someone who says, "Hey, I just want to get a skill to help me earn more, to help me be add more value to my business and make me increase my earning
mm,
power," then you may not want to take the 4 years because he may not have the 4 years to provide for that. And then maybe the other alternative may be a master's degree, right? Then speaking about the must-have skills, I usually do not like to think about technical skills because anybody who wants to learn
mm,
tech, anything tech, would one of the fundamentals is that you should know how to learn. Learning how to learn is very
mm,
important because technology
mm.
skills, technology is very fast paced. A few
Yeah,
years ago, we were
very,
just
very.
talking about AI and all that. Today, we can literally see it for our eyes, like it's happening
Few
so
years ago,
fast.
it was even big
Yeah,
data. I can't remember the last time I heard
correct.
big data.
Exactly,
Few years ago, it was
exactly.
big data, big data, big data, big data. Everybody was shouting big. What is big data exact? Now I can't even remember the last time I heard the word big data. Data is data.
Yeah.
Buzzwords.
So yeah, exactly. You're correct. So and you see that data is moving. I said data rather. Technology is moving at a very fast pace, right? Even data as well. Data is the foundation of AI. It's what is used to build all forms of AI, and data growth in society because due to internet growth of society, data growth is increasing as well,
Mm,
and everything is moving so fast. So anybody who wants to do any form of tech skills must learn how to learn. I'll say that's the fundamental. I don't want
mm,
to talk about any technical
mm,
skill because you can learn anything. If you can learn how to learn, you can learn technical skills.
mm,
And then if you're
mm,
focused on data, you want to have curiosity, communication, and ability to learn as your top three. Maybe for number five, I could add
mm,
critical thinking, right? Because you want to learn how to ask the
mm,
right questions. You want to learn how to understand how what you're doing could add value to the business. Because at the end of the day, data is not just data. The reason why data is valuable or data analytics is valuable because people believe that you can get some value out of data analytics for the business. Right. So if as a business I
mm,
run several ad campaigns on different channels, and at the end of the month I can measure how much each of these ad campaigns is giving to my business. I can tell which of these ad campaigns
mm,
are doing most. I can tell which particular influencer is doing the most for my business. It helps me know where to channel my resources and know how to get the most out of my business. So fundamentally, you want to be able to help the business get benefits out of your skill. And to get that, you need to learn how to think critically, ask the right questions, be curious as data person. So I would say those are like my top skills to have. Before I talk about any technical skills like learn this, learn that, you can always learn anything. Because even if you
mm.
learn one today, that one becomes
Yeah.
what was the word? Obsolete tomorrow. So technology becomes obsolete very easily. So you
Yes.
have to
Yes.
know the fundamentals very
Skills.
well before you can now pick up any technology.
Tool,
I don't know if that makes sense, but then
tool,
that's my thought.
tools come and go. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Tools come and go, but what remains is the quality of the thinking. I mean, you can't even learn all no matter how, except maybe you don't have other things you're doing with your, even if you don't have other things you're doing with your life, you cannot learn all the skills.
Of course,
You
of
can't
course,
learn
of
all
course,
the stack. You can't.
of course, of
You want
course.
to go and learn Azure, you want to go to AWS, you want to go to GCP, you want to go to Snowflake, there you go to data,
Data breaks.
data lake, all of that, data bricks, yes. And you just can't learn everything.
Yeah.
It's not possible. It's not possible. So what even gives you the soft skill, knowing how to ask the right question, knowing how to think. That's what really adds value. And the reason I'm emphasizing on that, because a lot of people, when they start out learning in the data space, they just want to learn tools. I also
Mm.
made that mistake. I remember when I started back then, just because I wanted to prove a point that I know this thing, right? I would just go and learn the Power BI, learn the SQL, then go and start, cramming some Python codes, some shiny Python codes, just to show that me too, we know what we are. But when you are presented with a business question, a real life business question,
Mm.
that is when you know that this thing is more than learning tools. So, soft skills are as important as technical skills. That is what gives value. In fact, that's what gives makes the technical skill, valuable for the company. Yeah. So, but what do you think about boot camps too? Boot camps are becoming a thing these days.
Mhm, mhm. Great. So just before I answer that question, let me just make a caveat to the previous answer. So when I talk about learning the fundamentals, so the reason why people go to learn the tools first is because actually for you to actually learn, you have to do. So
Hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
it will take you doing for you to understand the
Yes.
fundamentals. So for
Yes.
someone who wants to be a data
Yes.
engineer, for example, he needs to understand the fundamentals of data extraction, ETL, ELT, and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you're just hearing it or reading it, it may not make sense until you do it. So I just thought
Hmm.
to create that balance. So when I
Yeah.
say
Experience.
soft skills and fundamentals,
Experiential.
doesn't mean not do, yeah. But then doing should be a means to an end to understand, not just doing for doing sake. And then speaking
Yeah.
about the question you asked about boot camps, I feel like boot camps are great. They are great. You spoke about Udacity Nano degree. I once did Udacity Nano degree as well. I think in data science or ML. I can't remember back then. Yeah, and that was very helpful as well. The reason I said so, but
Mm.
that's sort of like an online boot camp. And what a boot camp really does is that it compresses a lot of learning within a short period, which makes you focus. And
Mm.
when you focus on a particular thing, you tend to understand it more. So the power of bootcamp
Though
is
it
not
can
just a
be
bootcamp; it's
intensive.
just that yes, that's the point. So it's intensive in a very short period of time, and so you have no choice but to focus. And your focus makes you understand better and achieve even
Yeah.
some much more within that short period of time. So boot camps are great. If you can afford a boot camp, do so. And there's a boot camp that this guy does, Zach Wilson for data engineers. Really great boot camp. Really great stuff. I think I wanted to join one. I think was it last year? I can't remember exactly. The one he made
Yeah.
open the
Yes.
discount was so much. It was really great. I think I even got the discount here. I can't remember exactly what happened. I couldn't continue. But then boot camps can be very, very great. They allow you to get so much within short period of time because you're forced to focus. And when you intensify your focus on a particular thing, as we all know, you get the result out of it. So boot camps are great. You just have to check
Mm-hmm.
that you're using a good boot camp that offers quality. Yeah. Because it can be quite expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very you know, boot camps. I mean, boot camps can be intensive, really. And if you are not ready for it, just don't jump into it because it's going to take your every part of you will be engaged. I mean, boot.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to remember an experience I had where I had joined the boot camp and it was so practical. Like this is different from me trying to learn on Coursera, just trying to watching video, lazily watching videos and
Mhm,
not practicing anything. So
mhm,
I think boot camp and just to buttress what you have said earlier about people like to do before they learn, and that is I think that's how we humans function. We like to experience it. That's how we learn, anyways. Learn by experiencing it, and the best way to experience is by doing it. And um that now emphasize the project-based kind of learning. And I think project-based learning are becoming a thing these days, which is for me personally, I think is more effective than just watching videos and not knowing, just accumulating theory. I mean, this is not an academic environment, not just accumulating. So project-based learning is very, very important, and that's why boot camps are becoming popular. So I want to connect that to portfolios, because you discover that, for example, somebody that just finished school, fresh graduate that just graduated from maybe university, maybe undergrad, or maybe they are postgraduate like masters, and they have all the terminologies, they know the theories and all of that. But at the end of the day, if any recruiter, if any technical screener or technical recruiter is going to recruit you, they want to see what have you done,
mm,
right? because at the end of the day, they want to know that are you able to function in a business environment, and what is your thinking process. So that is why you see sometimes they subject, because personally I think that some interviews are so strict and stringent that it is kind of unnecessary, but I don't really blame them, because maybe they've met some people, and you what you ordered for versus what you got.
Also,
So
yeah,
somebody has a very, the person is a tiger on the CV, but by the time the person enters the office, the person is a cat.
I can imagine.
So so to filter all of that, he discovered that technical recruiters and screeners are so strict on interviews now that they simulate in an interview, in a world class level interview now. They want to simulate a business environment and see how you are. In fact, you live coding, now pair coding now, all those live coding interviews. They want to see not even the solution. They want to see how you arrive at your solution. So as you are getting the solution, they are also monitoring your thinking process, and that connects back to what you were talking about, knowing how to think. So that simulates a real life scenario where you're trying to solve a business problem. And I want to connect it to portfolios, where or how can somebody just starting out, where they're asking you for 3 years of experience, or you're a fresh guy, how can you, I know we've mentioned, yes, maybe portfolios, but how can you approach portfolios better for that kind of thing?
All right, great, great, great. Thank you so much. That's a very good question. I think something that people starting out have, a leverage that they have to stand out today, is the idea of projects and portfolios. Reason being that you cannot say you understand the concept until you've done it. So
Mm.
you try to understand the concept, you do it, it solidifies your understanding, and then if there are gaps in your understanding, you find it with while you're doing that project, and then you go back to get information, solidify your understanding. So really, that's how the idea of projects work. So let's say you read a book or you watched a video about how to build a pipeline, and they said you get this guy, connect it together, it works so fine, and you're excited. I can do this, I can do this. And you go there, you try to do something, you get stuck. So you have to research. You have to now research is easy. Chat GPT, then to Stack Overflow. You go there, you search. If there are communities, you go to their Slack groups and search. You try to find an answer. And while you are searching, you are understanding, you're not just understanding how to solve your problem, you're understanding what caused the problem, what to do to avoid the problem. And so your knowledge begins to expand. And say that's like the value of doing project-based learning and then portfolio-based learning. And I would tell anyone who's starting out right now, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Once you start learning a concept, the next thing you want to do is do something along those lines. Do something
Mm.
along those lines. Build something, right? So when you build, it breaks, you learn. You build, it breaks, you learn. You
Mm.
build, it breaks, you learn. If you don't build and it doesn't break, you don't learn. So and then you build a
Yeah.
portfolio out of that. So because each of those things is an experience. So when they say 3 years experience, they're basically saying you've encountered several problems and you knew how and you solved it.
Mm.
So we want to get that
Mm-hmm.
experience of those problems you've encountered in our organization. Now, the projects you've done, you've encountered problems there as well, and you solved it. So talk about it, package it in your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio, design it, tell a
Yeah.
story out of what you've done. And I say when people are trying to pick projects on what they've done, I would say do something that interests you. I think one of the
Mm.
early portfolios I did when I did it, my portfolio, I think I also did a video on how to create a portfolio with GitHub. Back then, I think it's one of
Mm.
my most viewed videos on YouTube. And interesting stuff on why I did that video. I curiously found out that a lot of people did not have portfolio, and I'm like, how will you learn that they have portfolio? And sometimes I did the video, and then I had so many views. I'm like, my assumption was true because I was talking to a lot of people, and I discovered that that's the case. So you don't have to pay for a portfolio. There are people who do their website using this website maker, but you could use GitHub for free to build a
Mm.
portfolio. And then
Mm.
when you're choosing a project, don't just go to Kaggle and then pick one random thing. No,
Open data sets.
just do something that you find interesting. One project I did
Mm.
I interesting was during NSAS. When was NSAS? I can't remember. 2020? Was
I think
2020?
EdSARS was
2020. Yeah,
2022.
2020. Yeah.
Was it 2022?
Yeah, I think 2020. No,
Was it
2020.
2020?
I think 2020. Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
think
Time has gone.
it's been a while. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think at that point in time, I was still reading and learning stuff around machine learning, data science, and stuff like that. Now I'm no longer. I don't do anything machine learning, data science. I'm focused on analytics and engineering. But then I was learning stuff
Yeah.
around it. Um. So after answers, I was on Twitter everywhere. I decided to do something I liked, I found interesting, which was a sentiment analysis with answer stacks to understand how people's sentiments from their posts and hashtags on Twitter. That was something I found
Mm,
interesting. I did that, published it, wrote a blog post on my Medium post, and pushed that out. So when you're talking about it, you're talking about that, oh, something happened in my society, in my country, people were feeling this and this. I wanted to know more about their feelings. And for a
mm,
business, you have a social media page, for example. You want to know how clients are sentimental towards your product. So you can begin to tie and tell the business person how that experience is valuable to him or her. So I said all that to say when choosing a project, think of something that you can you can tie value to the business. Pick something that interests you, that you want to finish it,
mm.
not something that is boring to you, that you get tired at some point, but
Yeah.
something I find interesting. And then just do a couple, do some more. Don't get tired. I know it can be tiring when you're doing some more and you're not getting any opportunities, but the more you do, the more you increase your muscles. And when the opportunity comes, you can explain
Mm.
yourself, you can show your muscles, show yourself, and by God's grace, you win. So that's how I think about projects and how important they are.
Okay. Uh, yeah. Before we go to maybe the last set of questions I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you were in the machine learning and data science before, and now you're in analytics engineering and more of going towards the infrastructure side. And I just I wanted you to explain because there are different roles in data.
Mhm.
Maybe the most popular that people know is data analysts, right? Data analyst, right? But there are many roles in data currently. There is data science, data scientist, data analyst, data engineering, analytics engineer, machine learning engineer, ML ops. I mean, different. So why? Maybe you could just do a brief explanation. I'm just looking because of time, but why did you move from data science, ML, machine learning to analytics engineering? And maybe you could explain the difference between the two roles. Yeah. Before I go
All right.
to questions around maybe networking and we end it.
All right, sweet, sweet, sweet. Thank you so much for that question. So I'll start with why no longer machine learning and data science. I started my data journey in data science. Right? I can even I
Mm.
think I had a competition, a closed door competition at one point. I can't remember the year, maybe 2020 or 2021, with Aksad Mansad, and that's why I got connected to Oyinbuki.
Oh, okay.
That's why I got connected to
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was in charge of that competition, and my model scored the highest, right? So I'm just saying that so that at that point in time I think I was good at
Oh,
what I was doing. Yeah. So I
nice.
think for me, why I left or why I decided to pivot out of data science was while I was studying more about data science, machine learning. I may be wrong. The ML guys could correct me if they know better. Well, they know better, so they could correct me. But my thinking at that point in time was, hey David, this thing requires lots of in-depth to build models. Now there are several models out
Mm.
there. Your forest, your what's it called, random forest, gradient boost, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those models have been built,
So,
auto boost and stuff like that. They've been built already. But to actually build a model
mhm.
yourself for your business requires
Yeah.
a lot of in-depth understanding of
Yes.
mathematics, how how
Yes.
that model works itself. And for me, I did not just wanted to use what people have built already. I wanted to learn how to build those models myself, build a
So you
custom
you
model
have
for
this
me for
you
my
have this
business.
build you have this building. Maybe that's why I went to analytics engineering.
Yeah.
I'm
So
already
when I
experienced
was going
it.
through that part and I saw some deficiencies in my mathematics, I realized
Mm.
that the level of mathematics required for me to do that in the level I want to do it, I do not have it. And do I have the time frame to spend to get that in-depth knowledge? I just said, David, drop this and move on to something else. And that's how I moved on to analytics and data engineering, and now analytics engineering, right? So that's for me. And I think in data first, one of the speakers on Friday, Busayo, I can't remember what he talked about, but then
Mm-hmm.
he talked about machine learning and research, but his speech further cemented the fact that you needed to have a solid understanding of mathematics, of further maths as it were, to know how to
Mm,
build your machine learning models for yourself, not just use what's been
mm,
built already. And then talking about the different roles in data, I feel like data roles has metamorphosed over the years, right? And it has changed as times changed. Few years back, there was nothing like analytics engineering. There was nothing like data science or data engineer. But
yeah, there was
as the
nothing.
needs
There was
arose,
nothing like that.
these roles became more. The roles became obvious, and not like nobody was doing those things, but then they didn't have these names. So, for example, people who argue that
Yeah.
many years back, statisticians were data scientists, right? That kind of thing, or the
Yes, yes,
analysts.
yes.
People can argue that.
Yeah.
So, but then basically, the analyst is just that guy who tries to make sense of the data and gives the business um, ideas about the data so that the business can make decisions out of what they can see. The analyst gets all the data, put them together, ask the right questions. Where's the business going to? Where's the business coming from? What are the right things we need to do? What are the things we need to pay attention to? What are the metrics that are important to the business? He tries to answer all those questions and push it back to the business in such a way, communicate rather to the business in such a way that the business understands what he's saying, and the business can make
Mm,
actionable, can take actions out of that. The data engineer tries to build an infrastructure for the analyst. Into Data engineer is much more in demand right now because there are so many data sources today.
mhm.
Data is growing and data sources are increasing. So several
Yeah.
businesses, they have several ad channels. They have Google ads, TikTok ads, Meta, Facebook. They want to understand how their customers are doing on all these platforms. They have their store on Shopify. They have some physical stores. They have all these different platforms having different data.
Mhm.
The data engineer comes and say, okay, you have all these different data solutions, all data different sources rather. I'm going to build an
Mhm.
infrastructure that helps you to connect all these things together, store it in one location, clean it up, um, sync them in together so that your analyst can easily pick them out and make sense out of it, such that if a particular customer comes in through a Google ad, for example, and he has some interactions with another platform, he can easily tell that this is the same customer, right? Basically, he's just concerned about the infrastructure. The machine learning and data scientist wants to build models
Mhm.
for more predictive analytics. So let's say, even though you could do predictive analytics without machine learning, right? You could do that. Say for example, if you're trying to predict lifetime value of a customer using cohort analysis, you could actually.
Can you hear me? I
Yes, I can
think
hear
I'm
you. Can
having
you hear
a
me?
glitch in my network.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I was saying data
Yes,
science.
yes.
I'm going to put data science and ML together because they are close. The data scientist and the machine learning engineer, they're just really interested in getting using models to enhance your business. It could be for predictive purposes, it could be for optimization purposes or efficiency. But they use models that has learned patterns from your business and are easy to predict or project how your business could move going forward. And then when speaking about the ML ops and stuff like that, they are more around infrastructure for the machine learning engineer. So if or previously, data engineer would have to build an infrastructure for the ML. But with the ML op guys and the ML engineer, they could build their infrastructure
Mm,
for themselves to deploy their models in production. So previously, the
mm,
data engineer would have to do that
mm,
deployment for them in production. But with their ML skills and ML op skills, they could do that deployment by themselves in production. But then the analytics engineer, basically he's more like the middle ground between data engineer and the data analyst. In other words, he
and
has
the
the best of both
analyst.
worlds. Yeah. So I know I did a video
Yeah.
that differentiates between analyst engineer, and data engineer. He just combines the skills of building infrastructure plus the skills of understanding the business,
Of
combines it together and
analytics.
provides value to the business. Yeah. So
Wow.
I would say
Thank
that's a
you.
summary.
Thanks.
Oh, and
Thanks.
one more rule I did not add, or two more rules I did not add, are data governance and data
There are so
quality,
many
right?
rules.
So that's something people should also
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
as well.
The that's more like a role for the non-technical people that still want to be part of tech, part of
Well,
data.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, so but it's still a bit technical, not as technical as data
Mhm,
engineer.
mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
it can be
mhm,
as
mhm,
technical as
mhm.
data
Of course,
engineer.
of course, of course,
Yes.
of course.
Yeah. So to my second to last question, I just want to let's leave the technical side now. Real life, getting a job.
Mm.
Now I've discovered that applying online on LinkedIn or just applying on Indeed blindly can only get you so far. I just wanted to maybe in 1 minute emphasize why networking, whether it's joining, like we have a community in Gredlen, right? We have a community on Telegram, and where we try to like as you said, community gives you breadth, mentorship gives you depth. So I think we are going to steal that tagline. We are going to steal it from you. So we'll steal that. A mentor gives you depth, community gives you breadth. And we are offering both on our Telegram community. So I just wanted to talk about networking and where you can get the most of it, whether it's through a community or LinkedIn, and how in just 1 minute.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much for that question. I would say networking is not really about what you can get, but what you can give. A lot of people see networking as what they can get.
Mm,
Oh, let me know this person I can get. No, no, no. You're not going to get anything that way.
mm,
First, you have to find what you can give. And times have changed, things have become much more easier, and you can give anything. You can add value in
mm,
any way. So you need to find
mm,
opportunities to add value. Opportunities could be
mm,
in volunteering, any community project or any community in data community, basically generally begin to
mm,
volunteer. You could begin to share your knowledge or teach people what you're learning
mm,
on Twitter. You could begin to share your learnings online. There's power in sharing your learnings online because then you begin to share your learning online. People can be aware that, oh, this is what you do, this is what you can do, and stuff like that. And so when an opportunity comes, they can think about you first. Because I will tell you the truth. As much as applying for roles works as well, I would say my last two roles has been more from referrals. My last three roles has been from referrals.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So people have to know you and know what you can do and know that you can add value. So when you think about networking about as a means of adding value, when you see someone in the industry who you're trying to get in touch with, don't think what can I get? Think what can I give?
Mm,
Right.
mm,
It could be anything. What can you give? So the more you add value, the more you become seen, and the more you are
seen.
seen, the more your abilities are known. The more your abilities are known, the more opportunities can come to
Mm,
you. So
mm. I like that.
that's my
Let me re-emphasize that because a lot of people might underestimate what you just said. You said the current and even the previous, maybe the last two jobs you got were through
that's
referrals,
three.
right?
That's three. Yeah.
The last three, that's very powerful. The first job I ever got came through referral. The second one came through referral. I think the third one was more like direct. The fourth one, so I think that about 50% of the jobs I've gotten, about 50% came through referrals,
Mm,
right? And so referrals are so powerful, and it it's what separates you because one job post 1,000,
mhm,
5,000 people can apply. So what is going to separate you from that? Okay, you say I have a project portfolio, I have many projects. Okay, there are 500 other people that have projects portfolio like you. So what separates you? So
mhm,
we are still human beings, we are not robots. So referrals are very powerful, and that is where
mhm,
be seen, join communities, be active on LinkedIn. Even if you can, another thing is even if you can't be providing content on LinkedIn, one of the hack, let me give you hack now is look for key people in your industry, or even you know, like our dear David here, my post, like comments, or even on other people that are in the data space, be commenting. When you are the first person, let me tell you something I do. Let me just give us a hack now. I go to my LinkedIn, I tell my LinkedIn that if this person should make any post, LinkedIn should alert me. So there's a feature on that on LinkedIn. The reason why I do
mhm,
that is because I want to always be the first person to comment on their post.
mhm,
So when
mhm,
I do that, they are able to say, oh, who is this person that is always commenting on my post? Every time, this person is always commenting on my post. The day I ask them for an opportunity, it won't be hard because they've
Mm,
always been seeing me. So
yeah,
that's an hack. So
true.
even you want to reach out to people, beyond Nigeria, be the first person or even the first three people to always comment on their posts. If you don't have the energy to be creating content on LinkedIn, be commenting on people's posts. You start from somewhere. So that's a way
Yeah.
of being seen, and that is going to really help you, in your journey, whether it is in data or even other areas of life, because people only people are committed to their future. They are not, if they see you as a distraction, they
Mhm,
won't have
mhm,
ability.
mhm.
There's
Correct.
no energy for distraction. So
Correct. Correct.
I think the last question I want to ask is, where do you see yourself maybe in the next 3 years? Are you still going to be doing the analytics engineer? You want to go into more senior roles, or maybe you just pivot into something that nobody expected? Yeah.
Wow. Well, in the next 3 years, 5 years, we shall find out. But then,
That's very political.
I definitely want to, or will not even want to. I definitely will make different progress in different ways. Definitely, I believe I'll still be in data space. Yeah, I'll still be in data space. What that might look like may be quite different, but then we'll still be in data space, and then some other things as well. But then I'll say we should just watch out.
Okay, don't want to expose yourself. It's okay, it's okay. All right, thank you so much. What last words do you have for our viewers? Our viewers have been so patient, and I'm really, really, really glad that they were able to join us. So, what do you have? Maybe one last advice before we go.
Wow. Thank you so much, Zakios. It's really been great sharing my thoughts here. So I think something I'm just going to say is really around the aspect of job seeking. I know that can be very challenging, that can be
Mm,
very frustrating, and that can be very tormentuous, for lack of better words. I'll just tell you that it's a game of numbers. You don't give up.
mm,
The more you push your applications, you refine your applications and keep on pushing it. You refine your profiles on all channels. You increase your chances to get seen and to get called. Even the opportunities comes through referrals, you can also get opportunities by applying rather, and getting that. I've
mm,
gotten to a number of opportunities that just came by just merely applying, right? So that can come, but don't give up. So don't give up. Once you're learning your skills, you're building your portfolios, you want to pivot, you want to do anything basically, sure. Just don't give up. That's the point. Don't give up. Just keep on pushing, keep on driving yourself. Have enough grit, have enough persistence. If you don't have identify your weaknesses and try to build them. If you don't have mentors, identify mentors, find them, reach out to them. I believe data space is very, very nice. Go for events. They are free events. Some of them are ticketed. Tickets are not so expensive for data events
mm.
as well. So just go there, meet people, add value, and sooner or later you'll smile.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been a very, very enriching one, and I can't thank you enough for making this very possible for viewers. So thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, and I think we've gone past the stipulated time.
Mhm.
See you next time when we come for the next episode. Until then, stay strong and be good. All
Thank you
right.
all.
You're welcome.